friends. Today I want to share with us the very reason why Cameroon is very poor. Every youth of Cameroon, this message is going to be a breakthrough for you because it will give you perspective. It will help you to challenge old beliefs that have held us back for a very long time. It will give you perspective, most importantly. This message will give you direction. This message will help you to understand what your real problem is. This message will give you hope. This message will give you a transformative position to take the necessary action that will cancel the yoke of generational poverty in your lives and on your land. I was looking at the national anthem. It talks about our fatherland. Our fatherland carries with it a very unique, fundamental, transformative essence of why we call ourselves Cameroonian. The foundation that makes up that nation is built in our national anthem. But most importantly, I want us to understand that the reason why we are very poor, imagine the GDP of Africa is 3.1 trillion. The GDP of Japan, one nation in Asia, is 4.23 trillion. That is, Japan, as small as it is, has a GDP greater than that of the entire continent of Africa. I don't even want to go to China with a GDP of about 31 trillion. I don't want to go to America. But ladies and gentlemen, there is hope for us. Why? Because if you derive the right information, you bring about your own transformation. Africa is the next big thing in the world. And we can only be successful if we are able to understand the things I'm about to teach you. Now, there are four basic concepts to begin with that governs the world. And this belief system, I don't care whether you believe in African religion, I don't care whether you believe in the God of the Bible, I don't care, whatever that belief is, but there are four fundamental principles that governs our world. The first is called liberalism. Liberalism prioritizes the rights of the individual, you as a human being. The next is socialism. Number two, socialism is the concept of socioeconomic equality. That is, the properties, the wealth of a nation or of a people is evenly distributed so that there is no hardship, there is no poverty within that economy. That is socialism. The next is conservatism. Conservatism prioritizes culture. What we have as African culture, what our ancestors transferred to us that we call culture, all of that notion and ideology is embedded in what is called conservatism. The last is called nationalism. You hear all of this has ism. That is, there is an aspect of the individual within these concepts. So nationalism prioritizes the nation. Now, what has been so popular over the years is the spirit of nationalism. When you look at great nations across the world like Nigeria, you look at great nations like America, you look at great nations like Russia, you look at great nations like Germany, you look at Britain, you look at France. I want to take Nigeria out of it. We are not yet a great nation. The entire GDP of Africa is obviously 3.1 trillion, which says Nigeria is not a great nation. It's growing. It's going to be there. If you look at these nations that we desire, we admire, we hope that our children can obtain a visa to travel to these nations, they have a fundamental belief and ideology that drives their progress. And that ideology is nationalism. The spirit that enables them to derive this passion for their nation. That is, they prioritize the individual, which is the aspect of liberalism, and then they prioritize the nation. That is the love for the entire country. What that means is, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what you think, regardless of what your emotions tell you to do, the nation is a priority. They prioritize you as the individual, producing, developing, believing that God has embedded in you some certain rights, which is a life, a liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Take note now, we are going somewhere with this. This is very important to understand that when we look at our nation, Cameroon, it's a beautiful country. Our primary languages are English and French. If you look at our nation, we have existed for the past 60 years or 62 or 63 years. If you look at Cameroon, you will ask yourself the question, why is it that this nation has all these resources? Why is it that this nation has great people? About 27 million people, and yet we are poor. Why is it that we have educated people, yet we are poor? Why is it that we have great artists, yet we are poor? Why is it that we find ourselves in this predicament? To break things down, guys, if you want to see transformation in your life from an individual perspective, it is very easy. Look at those who have made progress in life that you desire so much and copy what they are doing. You're like, what? That means we are not original. I say copy. Why we are where we are tells us that what we have been doing doesn't work. I repeat, where we are should tell every Cameroonian that what we are doing doesn't work. And if we have to experience the success that we desire and admire from all these great nations, copy what they are doing. Model what works. The fact that they are so successful that we desire to travel to their countries tells us that what they are doing works. And what we are doing doesn't work. But you will look at this picture and say, I want to be able to preserve what I call my culture. The question to you is, how has it been working for you? Now, right now in Cameroon, there is a political upheaval. There are separatist groups within Cameroon. And the country has been in this political turmoil for the past 7 years. And you ask yourself the question, what is the fundamental root cause of this political turmoil? You realize that the separatists are going back to 1961 to rewrite history. And the hope is that if we challenge the decisions that was made in 1960, we will obtain life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if you have attempted for over 7 years and you haven't gotten the results, or there's no sign of help from any other nation, the question you should be asking yourself is why? Now, in 1961, we know that our parents, our predecessors, our ancestors, our leaders came together and said, we will make this nation one. We are coming together. Yes, there was a federal idea about the whole notion of coming together. But so far, we've seen that the nation or the president has been moving the nation towards a unified front, of which some people are not for that idea. And that is why we have the war, have the separatist movement within our nation. Now, every English-speaking Cameroonians, listen and listen well. And I want to let us know today that if we do not have heroes, there is no one we are looking up to. And if there's no one we are looking up to, then we have no foundation. And the people that stood together, the founding fathers of that nation, are the people who sat down on the table on that unification conversation that led to a decision of coming together as one Cameroon. We might not like these leaders. We might hate the idea that they came together and had this kind of conversations that today we deem doesn't favor us. But one thing remains, that these are founding fathers of our nation, and we have to respect them. God places everybody in a position of authority for a reason. I might not like my father. I might not like the decisions that he made, but he still remains my father. I will give him respect for who he is in my life. Just bringing me on earth was a gift all by itself. If today we rise up and choose to criticize our leaders, my question to each and every one of us, if you're listening to someone that looks at Foncha and said he was a fool, and you are following them, my question to you is, what is your foundation? What is your foundation? Now, this is why I'm saying this. If you look at Aijo and you say he was a fool, what is your foundation? You are telling the whole world that foolish people rule you. Again, coming to Northwest, like I said, I just want to segue a little bit for us to understand from a biblical perspective. In Genesis or Exodus chapter 3 verse 6. In Exodus chapter 3 verse 6, you see Moses in the bush. He's there taking care of sheep. This is a guy that has killed somebody in Egypt, and he is running away as a fugitive. And he's right there taking care of sheep. And God appears to him to send him back to Egypt so he can be able to liberate the children of Israel out of Egypt. And God says something very important to him, which is why I titled this message, Why Cameroon is Still Very Poor. God said to Moses that I am the God of Abraham, I am the God of Isaac, and I am the God of Jacob. When you look at the life of Abraham, he trusted God with his child Isaac. And Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son for God. At least that we can put a check mark on it and say, hey, at least this guy trusted and believed God to an extent. You might say you don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe in all of that, but just follow the lesson. It's just a story. Let's assume it's a story, right? Let's assume it's a story. But I know we cannot do anything in our lives without God. I don't know what you think or what you say or how you feel. There is one God, and besides him, there is none. And he said he is the God of Abraham. Now, if you look at the life of Isaac, in spite of the flaws of Abraham, but God actually called him his friend because he passed the test of trying to sacrifice his son for God to say, what I have is yours. What that says is, I am an individual. I have my sovereign rights. I have this privilege to do what I want to do, but I submit it to you. And if you look at Cameroon, we live in a nation where our tribes and our villages are more important than the individual. Our villages are more important than the country. And I'll come to that later. But God called him my friend. And if you look at the life of Isaac, he lived a righteous life and God loved Isaac. If you look at Jacob on the flip side, you begin to ask yourself the question, this man was a trickster. This man deceived his own blood brother and took his birthright. What qualifies him to get in that rank of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And this is to say, the reason I use this story is to let you understand that in spite of his flaws, God accepted him. And in spite the flaws of our leaders, you might not like Foncha, you might not like Aijo, you might not like President Paul Biya, you might not like Ninjon Frundi, you might not like Chief Mukete, you might not like Fon Angwafo, but these are the people that we have seen exemplify what it means to be a Cameroonian. That their decisions was predicated on the fact that they wanted to see a nation that grows, develop, unifies, and be able to provide the people with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Stay with me, we are going somewhere. When you follow someone that criticizes their predecessors, they have ulterior motives that the end result will not be for your own good. Don't listen to anyone who thinks that they are self-made and nobody helped them to get where they are. You had a father, you had a mother, you had some people that brought you into this world, and everything about you is because they existed. We are talking about a president that you think has the power to put you and your children in bondage for over 30 years, and you think they don't have the power and the mantle over your life. You think that they are too small because their decisions don't go the way you think, and you think you should criticize them, ridicule them, make them look small in the eyes of the rest of the nation. And Cameroonians, the reason why we are very poor, number one, we don't respect our leaders. We don't respect our leaders. I'm not saying everything they do is right. Look at it. Read your Bible. Look at history. Study everyone around you that has emerged in a position that you admire and desire. You cannot insult your leaders, your fathers, and rise up and have me respect you. If you respect your father, I will respect you. No wonder if you think that you just came from the sky, if you disrespect your fathers, your children will rise up to disrespect you. But if you can show respect to your fathers and bring out the aspects of their lives that were exemplary ideas or ways that they live their life that your children can look at, then we will respect you. So to Cameroonians, the reason, number one, we don't respect our leaders. I was just thinking in my spirit, and as I was preparing this message, to say, let's come up with a day that we just pray for President Paul Biya. That is a foreign concept for every English-speaking Cameroonian. Let's pray for President Paul Biya. We've demonized him for a very long time. Let's pray for him and see what God will do. And this is why I'm saying this. Listen. Our leaders were once children. Because we talk about African leaders being the problem as to why Africa is poor. That story is not entirely true. They were once children that grew up in our own communities, went to our schools, studied and now are leading us. One thing that I want us to understand about these people is that their heart is not made of stone. But on the flip side, if you keep criticizing someone because you might think you just said something bad about your president to your friend in a bar, they went around and spread that message. The chief or the president heard it and asked the question, is this what these people think about me? I will strip them of every opportunity that will enable them to succeed. And because I want to be powerful, because if they think this way about me, definitely they will want to kill me someday. They will want to overthrow me someday. Let me strengthen myself. I will invest in military instead of helping them to build, instead of helping to invest in their region. I will empower myself by getting a strong military. So all the money that would have been used for your own development is going towards the military. To say that is not enough, I realize that you guys are building up this front. You're trying to empower yourselves to come challenge me. I will privatize every resource in this nation to gain foreign friendship, to gain foreign relationships, so that in case you try to attack me tomorrow and this army is not enough, I will call for help. And when I do, they will come in here and suppress whatever rebellion that is emerging to overthrow me. Imagine if we praise our leaders, that at least in Cameroon, there is the opportunity for you to go to school from primary school to university without paying a dime, without paying school fees. For government schools, we pay 1,500. Universities will pay 50,000. That is very little compared to what you pay for tuition right here in the United States of America. Can we praise our president for being able to provide us with at least the greatest tool that we need, which is education, to equip and arm our minds to go out there and take over the world? Can we praise him for that? What can you see about Paul Biya that is good that you can praise? And when you do that, you realize that these presidents have a union. When they come together and you think that you are trying to suppress them, you're trying to kick them out, they will have conversations on how to deal with such groups. And guess what? They will share ideas among each other and come back home and suppress whatever rebellion that emerges to take them out of their power. That is why Africa is poor. Because we look at our leaders as our enemies. Everywhere on the press, the problem in Africa is their leaders. The problem in Africa is their leaders. Why Africa is backward is because of their leaders. That is not entirely true. I have traveled, I've read extensively, I've understood that the problem why we are broke and backward is deeper than what we think, and we might predicate the reason to being that we have bad leaders, and that is why we are broke. That story is not entirely true. Within Africa, within Cameroon, we have different groups, traditional groups that are one of the causes of our own demise. Tribalism that is bringing us down, and we fail to see that. And I want to let you know, it starts within the house. It starts in the family. From the family, it moves to the community, the village, the region, and then the nation. That child that you've seen become president move through these channels. They were once children. They were once students. They were once part of a village. Now they are leaders leading our nation. They are a byproduct of us. And if we will solve that problem, we have to start it at home. Teaching our children how to respect elders, teaching our children how to respect their governor, teaching our children how to respect their president, teaching our children to honor their leaders. We should not only sing praises to Paul Biya when they've passed out 10,000 for election, and that is when you say, Paul Biya is the real deal. You should talk well about your president, speak well about your president before you get to the position where you think It is just an election that should require you to give praises to your leader. And as we start doing that, if you praise even a bad child, you praise a bad child, something good will come out of that child. If you praise a bad leader, you praise them and outline and highlight their positive qualities, something good will come out of them. Just keep trying in that direction. When you say they are all bad, what are you telling them? That they are up to no good, and you just cloud their minds of even thinking creatively to help you succeed. They are struggling with the past. They are struggling with colonialism. They are struggling with a nation. They don't have some of them don't have the skills to lead that nation, but they are trying, and if they keep networking, they will get good ideas that will help them. They don't have it all together. And this idea, that is why there is Jacob on that list. That is why there is Abraham, there is Isaac, there is Jacob, because Jacob is the individual that was a trickster. Jacob was the individual that would deceive, but somehow Jacob was trying to figure out himself, and God put him in the list because you will have leaders. Yes, we have A-class leaders like Abraham in the United States. Yes, we have a B-class leaders like that of China, but we also have a Jacob on that list, which comes from Africa. He don't yet got it all together, but he's thriving to go somewhere. But his people keep thinking that he is bad. How can he ever come out of this predicament if everybody, including his own people, look at him with these eyes of disgust? Are you hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth? God is breaking chains right now. So I was talking about these concepts of liberalism. I was talking about conservatism. I was talking about socialism. I was talking about nationalism. And this is what happens in Africa, in Cameroon. We have this strong conservative culture. Our traditions in our village is more important than the nation. Yesterday, I was attending a fundraising here in Houston, Texas. The hall was very scanty. But yet, this is a brother that has took the time to create a program that can help internally displaced citizens because of the war that is going on in our country. But very few people showed up to show him support. I remember the very first time I visited Houston before I moved to Houston, there was a traditional event. When I showed up, the hall was jam-packed. And that tells me two things. Number one, the people prioritize their village over the individual, and the people prioritize their village over the nation. That is conservatism. In Africa, what we call pan-Africanism prioritizes the even distribution of resources, economic equality. Guess what that does? It stripped a nation of their own power to produce and stand out, which is what makes the West that we eager to travel to successful. I repeat, because in the very beginning I said what? If you want to be successful, follow and copy what works. Right here in the West, they prioritize the individual, and then after the individual, the nation. In Africa, we prioritize the community, the tribes first, and then secondly, we believe that at the level of the nation, there should be even distribution of wealth. That is our demise. You would say we practice democracy. My question to you is, do you value your nation more than your village? We should get to the place where we have this passion for our nation. We have this social contract with our nation. We don't let some conservative or radical conservative ideology become what we hold primary. We don't let some socialism or socialist ideology, radical socialist ideology, become the prism that will build our nation? How can we succeed when the individual's light can't shine and we appreciate? How can we succeed when the entire nation has to have this even distribution of wealth for us to succeed? How can we? We want everybody to come together. What are we coming together to do? What we come together, what we'll do is we'll encourage laziness. People will not be productive. The whole nation will be stagnant. The continent will be stagnant. Africa has a GDP of 3.1 trillion. I repeat, Japan has a GDP of $4.23 trillion. That is the GDP of Japan alone. One country in Asia is more than the entire Africa, the entire continent of Africa. Africa needs healthy competition among each other. We need to be able to produce goods and products and compete among each other. Competition is what stretches us. What we do is we are traveling to the diaspora, we travel to foreign countries, we see the success that they have amassed, we see the wealth that they have gained, and we think that if we pick that system and plug it in Africa, we will just play it and get the same result. It doesn't work that way. When you see a successful person or you meet a successful nation, my question for you is, what do you think? You think you can pick that idea, plug it in your nation and get the same results? No, it doesn't work. When you meet that country at stage 6, ask the question, what did they do when they were at stage 2? Which is where you find yourself. Don't try to pick what they are doing in stage 6 and plug in stage 2, because you will get a different result. And then you turn to blame the leaders. A planned command economic system doesn't work. A free market economic system is what works in the West. But you pick a planned economic system and then you pick democracy and then you plug it in your planned economic system, which is what the colonizers left for you. A system that the government controls the resources and everything, controls the industries, and you think that is going to work. It can't. Now, why am I driving with that? Now, when you see America, when you see China, when you see France, when you see England, you think they got here by doing what you are doing. No. One of the things that I was studying and I would like to share, because you're watching this video because you want to know how to free Cameroon. Do you really want to know? You really want to know how to elevate our country from this abject poverty? Let me share a story with you. When France was emerging and they realized that they needed to develop their economy, one of the things they realized was a sense of national unity among every French citizen. And the way they went about to achieve that was to dismantle every cultural group within France and say France is going to pledge allegiance to the nation, the flag. Like you hear in America today, you see people say, we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. And for what it stands for, one nation, under God, indivisible, all of that. France dismantled the traditional groups within France. They did that. They said if we will achieve national unity, we should be able to speak one language. We should be able to talk as one people. We should have similar values. You want to pick democracy in the West and plug in Cameroon, where we have multitudes of languages that are confusing us, and we prioritize our cultures, our traditional groups over the nation. We prioritize our traditional groups over the individual, and then we want to achieve what America has, right? What did America do at stage 2? At stage 2, America had to demolish the cultural groups within America. France had to demolish the cultural groups within France. Yes, Germany had to demolish the cultural groups within Germany so that they can speak one language. Because when they speak one language and share similar values, it is easy for them to spread their political ideology, stand as one voice, and then they face the wall. Today, Africa wants to come together and face the wall without doing the very, very primary things that are necessary, which is making sure that everybody has one language, speak as one, and share similar values. I come from Mancon, and it is a privilege to come from that city because I saw how my father treated people. Irrespective of the tribe that you come from, my father will rent you a house at the same price. He will give you that house. Some people stayed in our house for over 6 years without paying rent, yet my father forgave them because he was looking at the big picture of the value that these people were bringing in the community. On the flip side, my mother-in-law went to Bali. She went to Bali as a nurse to serve the people of Bali. When she went there, a house that was rented for 10,000, they gave her for 20,000. My mother-in-law had to go look for a native of Bali to come negotiate that house rent in order for her to have a fair deal. This is an individual that is a nurse coming into Bali to help the people, and some of the people she was dealing with or helping were suffering from HIV/AIDS, and yet she was being taxed or charged 20,000 for a house that is rented out for 10,000 because she is not a native of Bali. This story is a classic example of why we are poor. I have never seen poor Biya in my region. I've never, except one time that he ever visited. I have been dealing with neighboring tribes and people from other villages, and I want to say the problem with why Cameroon is the way it is, Northwest is the way it is, Southwest is the way it is, the entire nation is the way it is because of the people and not the president. The president doesn't run the nation. He runs the nation through people. And if he allocates resources and money for a deal, a governor to go construct a road, and the road is not constructed, is not entirely the fault of Paul Biya, but also the governor. And because the governor might amass that money because of this cultural difference and traditional and tribal beliefs, he would prefer to allocate that money towards his own village, or take the money, send it to a foreign account, and you don't see anything, and you think Paul Biya is the problem. We are the problem. By the time we see our nation as our nation, and we see that if it ought to become what we want to see it, it is up to us. We have to get to where stage 2 is and do what we need to do by demolishing these cultural dynamics that exist between us and be able to level the playing field. Allow someone to come into your village because they are competent, because they are coming to produce value. Imagine that is what is happening in America. I have traveled even to the suburbs in Texas, and I have not had a single sentiment of racism, a single sentiment of we don't want you here. But in my own village, in my own town, in my own region, my mother-in-law from Bamenda cannot go to Bali and rent a house at a fair price, and Paul Biya is the problem. My mother-in-law could not go to Bali, a nurse that is coming there and has served that region for over 9 years. She cannot go into Bali and rent a house at a fair price. Paul Biya is the problem. We are doing a fundraising to help elevate poverty and help the internally displaced people because of the war. And very few people, not up to 30 people, showed up to support that initiative. Paul Biya is the problem. Kang Quintus comes to Houston to launch a film. Very few people show up in the hall to support that project. Paul Biya is the problem. Paul Biya is the problem. Not us. It is easy to blame. It is easy to point finger at someone. See why Pancho says let's prioritize our own products, our own resources, and we demonize him and condemn him. Paul Biya is the problem. Because when you support each other, that money goes into your brother's pocket. Where are they going to spend it? In your economy. When that money circulates, what happens? We get more money. And when we get more money, what does that happen? We empower each other and become financially independent. No, Paul Biya is the problem. No, it's not you, right? It's not you. It is not your brother. It's not your sister. It's not the tribalism. It's not the way we treat each other. We look at each other and we always minimize people. No matter what you do, we look at it from the perspective of the group and not the individual. And guess what? Paul Biya is the problem. The West elevates the individual. And they fought so hard to get here. And what I'm saying to you today, 20 years from now, you will come back to this if you don't take action. Now, you come back to this message to understand that the tribes need to be dissolved. Our whole nation need to speak as one and have similar values. We can pick out of these cultures and these tribes the values that we believe in and hold them to represent us as Cameroon and be able to move forward as one. The whole nation of Cameroon should be able to speak only 2 languages, English and French, which is even too much, but English and French are the minimum. When you go sit in Canada and you think, oh, what Canada is doing can work for Cameroon. Hell no, it can't work for Cameroon. Canada will speak only English and French, but you don't just speak English and French. If I step in a neighboring tribe, they'll start saying some stuff that I don't get it. And that is not a contributing factor to development. People get scared and they walk away. I don't know what they're saying. Their faces didn't look right when they said what they said. And so I don't know if they're conspiring to kill me. So I'm going to run away. And guess what? It hinders our development. This, what I'm saying, is the bitter truth that nobody will ever tell you. Even the West will never sit down and tell you. I have to go into their literature and their books and see how they emerge, the stages of their development to where they find themselves, and realize that this is what we are missing. Again, there is a book written by Lawrence Miller. I've talked about that countless times. From Barbarians to Bureaucrats. In that book, he outlines the stages that 21 civilizations have gone through. And he said, number 1 is the prophet, the person who says, I have a dream, I have a vision, let's go out there and make things happen. The next stage is the barbarians, the people who are radical with that vision and they go out there and they take action. And then the third stage is the builder and explorer. These are the people that after the barbarians have stimulated the environment, they come to set up structures and build and develop and explore and advance that economy. And then the next stage is the administrators. The administrators are the people who come in now and start bringing structures, some defined structures. Like when I'm talking about structures, I'm talking about they start bringing law, they bring order. And then from there, he moved to the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats are the people within that economy that you will see that they start coming up with some ideologies and philosophies that raises the standards of that nation and actually enables you guys to be at that position where you feel like, yeah, we have this great leader from this nation with this articulating power that can be able to represent the nation, whatever that means. And the bureaucrats are people that are wealthy. They don't really connect with the builders. They don't really connect with the explorers. They don't really connect with the barbarians, but they are bureaucrats. Then we have the aristocrats. The aristocrats are individuals within that nation that if you look at now, it elevates the standard. And if you see like Greece, there was the Socrates, there were the Aristotle, there was a Plato, and all of these people rose up in that nation after the Alexander the Great had come and conquered the whole world and was able to do amazing things. And now the nation emerged to become victorious. And at the stage that we find Aristotle and Plato, the nation had advanced and gotten to that stage. And so you find the aristocrats. And then the last stage he talks about is the synergist, which is very, very important to note, because if you realize when the nations start moving to the stage of an administrator, a bureaucrat, or an aristocrat, you realize that it's in a decline. Because when you don't connect with people, you start losing touch with reality, and your nation starts going in a sharp decline. So the synergist comes and announces to the people that remember why we started, remember our founding fathers. That is where I am today. I'm reminding you that there was John Gu Foncha, there was Endeli, there was Fonangwafo, there was Chief Mukete, there was Ninjon Frundi. There was all these great people are the ones that were able to do what we could not do. There was Aijo, there was Paul Biya. I want you to remember that these people had good heart for you, but we don't know what has happened to them over the years. And could you have a hand in it and you think they are superhumans and should do the right thing? I just came to remind you that we started with the objective to unify, to grow, to build. My question to every Cameroonian, did you throw your entire heart in that vision? Did you throw your energy, your passion, your talent in that vision over your tribe, over your village, and prioritize the nation over your village? Cameroon need a sense of national unity, national pride, national strength, national love. We love our country. We love our president. We love the vision that we stand on. So, dear friends, I just want to let us understand that there is a bright future ahead of us. Fighting and doing what we are doing right now is not the best strategy to help us achieve what we intend. Look at how the great nations have emerged to be victorious. Follow their path, and you will get the same result. It is that easy. No shortcuts. You cut your way to wealth. And if we keep doing what we are doing, we are going to get on a track that will send our continent, our nation, 50 years backwards. This is what is happening right now. When our brothers and sisters travel abroad, especially in America where I find myself, they live in liberal states. What that means is they prioritize individualism, and not only that, they are radical liberals. And that is where you see all of these movements, the feminism, you see all of these movements of gay and all of that. When our people come to the West, they live in cities and communities that share these ideologies. What they do is they mingle with these groups. And the truth is that these groups, they tend to provide aid easily compared to the conservative or the nationalists. And so they take this aid, they come back home, we empower more of our women. Why? Because we are trying to pick what nation America is doing at stage 6 or stage 7 of their cycle, and we are trying to go pluck it on our nation, which is on stage 2. So what does that do? We empower our women and we weaken our men. We don't empower our men, and guess what that happens? Men are the ones who will go out there and build bridges. They are the ones who will build schools. They are the ones who will build houses. They are the ones who will build technological systems. We don't empower them to be able to go out there and build those schools and roads and technology, because the West is at the stage where they've had all those things and now they're having fun and there's enough money for them to experiment with their women and see what life can lead them to. And Africa comes to the diaspora, picks up this concept, go back home and try to implement it. What happens over the years is that the men become weaker and there is no development going on. And then the women become stronger and the whole nation is on a standstill. And guess what happens? In the next 100 years, we will be weaker than what we are right now. And we will never be able to produce any product that will compete with the world. This is what happened to us in slavery and slave trade, the easy path. And it's happening again. I say it's happening again. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That God has a perspective that if you look at carefully, it will give you that kind of energy and direction and perspective and courage and zeal to do the right thing, not the convenient thing. So, during the era of slavery and slave trade, and this is why Africa is poor. I thought I'd add this in this message so you get it. You might hear some 1-hour video or read some 20-page manuscript on this subject or read some peer-review papers or go out there on the internet and research and see what's going on. This is what is going on right now, and this is why Africa is still poor. Take it from me. This is a brother from Africa like you, talking to you. The reason why Africa is poor is because at some point of Africa's evolution, we were very strong. We had the Songhai, we had the Ghana Empire, we had all of these strong empires in Africa. So when the Europeans came to our shores in the 18th century, none of them could penetrate our interior. They could not penetrate our various empires. And so they went through our chiefs. They went through our leaders. They went through our emperors. They went through our kings. And what they did was our tribes and our villages and our empires were fighting against one another. And when they were fighting against one another, they captured slaves. But these slaves had rights. These slaves had rights to their property. Their children did not automatically become slaves. They had rights. Now, because of the animosity that existed between empires, they sold these slaves to the Europeans. They didn't only capture them and keep them with the basic rights that they had. They started selling them to the Europeans. The Europeans took those slaves to the West. They took them to America. When they took them to America, what happened? They worked in plantations, and they were there to work till they die. For 400 years, this has been happening. This has been the story of Africa. They produce tobacco, they'll produce cotton, and all of these raw materials will be shipped to Europe. When they ship them to Europe, they turn them to manufacture groups, to manufacture products, to manufacture goods. Take those manufactured goods, ship them to Africa, sell them to Africans in exchange for slaves. Take those slaves to America. They work in the plantations. They take the raw materials and the products that they cultivate back to Europe. They produce manufactured groups. They produce manufactured goods, send them to Africa. The cycle continues. This happened continuously for 400 years. And as this went on and on, guess what happened? Over time, Africa lost the greatest among us. Most of our people that would have been involved in crafts, because some people was like, what happened with the history of Africa? Why is it that we don't have a common language? Why is it that we don't have some artifacts? We don't have sculptures. We don't have art. Why is it that we don't have this? The reason is simple. When we were in this machine, this slave machine, this slave business, over the centuries, it crippled us over time, because with the emergence of industrialization, people did not want slaves anymore. And so because they could not engage in slavery and slave trade, our economy crippled. Our economy crumbled. And when an economy crumbles, do you know what people fall back on? People decide to go back on the basics. And what is the basic? Food. We just want to survive. And so we cultivate or develop an agrarian economy where people are focused on agriculture. But how can you produce in mass if you don't have the population? How can you produce in mass if you don't have the machines? Now, everybody has to turn into crude farming. And in that process, what happens is we cannot even think of going to produce art, produce great musicians, produce machines. Why? Because all we care about is food, something to put in your stomach. And it's pretty understandable that if you're in that condition, what you should be thinking about is food. Everybody, imagine, growing up in Africa, I grew up from a very humble household. Humble. And with that, going to play sports and follow my passion was less important than going to the farm and producing food for the family. And so no matter what you do, no, go to school. That is the maximum you can do. After that, go to the farm. So you understand how this agrarian economy can emerge from Africa and why we will not be able to produce arts for a very long time. We will not be able to produce machines for a very long time. But if you look at Africa, during the time where we had great empires, where we had the Songhai, the Ghana, and the Mali Empire, this time we were there. We produced mathematics. We produced mathematical equations. We were great. We were up there with the sciences and other great arts, and we made massive contribution to the war. But slavery and slave trade crippled us. It crippled Africa. Now, after industrializations, they started producing ships and machines. Now, the Africans were poor because slavery and slave trade had crippled them. And I just want to note this to let our people know we sold our people out as slaves. We did that. It is not magic that Africa had this strong empire and the Europeans were able to penetrate us, which would tell us that we have been always weak, which I refuse to accept that position, because I want to believe that we were strong, that they could not penetrate, and yet they traded with us. That is, they used their brains to be able to do business with us. And I want to say, when you accept that position, it puts us back in the place where we can gain some strength to understand that we were once strong, and so we can be strong again. But not to fight people, but to empower ourselves economically and free our people from poverty. Now, we will look at Portugal, right? Portugal were one of the first people in 1871 that came to the coast of Africa for colonization. When they came to Africa, and then we understand that there was colonization, what happens is, guys, when you become that weak, after selling your people out for slavery and slave trade for a very long time, your kings and your chiefs and your entire empire is that weak, it is easy for foreigners to come and penetrate you, which was the order of the day. And one thing I want Africans to remember is that the entire world has gone through this slavery and slave trade journey. We are not the first people, because the myth that some of these leaders are spreading is like Africa is the first continent to ever experience slavery and slave trade, which is entirely not true. All the nations on earth that you can think of have gone through an era where there was slavery and there was slave trade. It is a human tendency, and we are developing right now and growing past that idea of selling another human being as slaves. We might just be the recent continent that experienced that, but doesn't mean that any other nation in the world has not gone through slavery and slave trade. So that happened, and when they came, they started colonizing Africa. Most people take advantage even of your brothers and sisters in the family. Don't act like you don't do that. You take advantage of other tribes. You've done that. Don't act like you don't do that. When you see people who are weak, it is crazy, because you will see people who are weak, instead of helping them, you take from them. And anytime I've gone to a company or business, a transaction, and I show vulnerability and I show like I'm weak, they just want to cripple me. They want to tax me more. They want to add more money. They want to make things so hard for me. It is a human tendency. And by the time we move from the ideology that slavery and slave trade was some propaganda or some conspiracy that the West sat together and looked at Africa and thought of this continent as a group of people they should destroy, it is not true. Human beings have always wanted to dominate another. But over time, as we start studying and understanding and producing wealth, that kind of idea is subsiding. It doesn't mean, we do that every day. It doesn't mean that this has not been happening in our evolution as human beings. And the reason why I'm saying this is because today, most youth in Africa desire to travel abroad. And when they have the visa, it is a jackpot for them. The whole family celebrates. When your brother or your sister gets into a relationship with a Caucasian, it is a celebration in the family. And I just want to say it is a good thing. And as we integrate, that is how we learn. That is how we begin to change our beliefs. And that is how the world becomes a better place. But if you look at the Caucasian or white man as your enemy, then there is a problem with that philosophy, because it is going to limit how far you can go or how far they can teach you what you need to know to change your own situation. It will limit your own economy. When you show up and you're speaking in English, thinking that it's your tribal language, and yet with the English language, everybody in the world can understand that. Go on YouTube and look at the most searched word. People are searching what African leaders are thinking, what African influencers are saying, and they are researching and coming up with your content on anti-white sentiments. And that anti-white sentiments, they know, oh, these people don't like us. They have this plan for us. They hate us. Their goal is to empower themselves so they can fight us. Their goal is so that they can dominate us. When they get this sentiment, it limits how far they can teach you. I was watching a video from a pastor that was saying, why is it that you have an iPhone, but yet you don't have one factory in Africa that produces iPhone? Why is it that you have iPhone 15? And yet there is no country in Africa that produces iPhone. And I just want to say that the iPhone that you have is a proof that the world is progressing. So you can be able to connect with the rest of the world with that device. And the pastor also said if the Bible was that good, the white man shouldn't have brought it to us. And I want to let you know, there is no conspiracy in the West to cripple Africa. The decisions and the sentiments and the beliefs we hold are cultural values that have not done us good for a very long time, and we continue to hold steadfast to, is the cause of our own problems. And by the time we realize that the highest enemy in this life is you look at yourself. I am the one standing in the way of my own good. Self-responsibility. Understanding that if it ought to be, it's up to you. If I change my mind, things in my life will change. If I start believing different, things will start happening different. If I believe well about my president, he will start acting different. If I believe well about my pastor, he will start acting different, even though he might be doing something that I don't agree with right now. That is the place where we find ourselves as Africans. And we have to accept that the slavery and slave trade that we blame, we had a contribution in that transaction. And if we will move forward, we have to accept where we are, accept our leaders, help them make better decisions, work in collaboration with them in spirit and in speech to let them know that we are one together in this struggle. We will work out our differences and build a better nation. Then we will start seeing change in Africa. We will start seeing change in Cameroon. We will start seeing change in the Northwest and the Southwest and every other region in Cameroon. When we start believing that something good can come out of that nation. I remember at one point I was making some posts on Facebook and I would say Cameroon is the best country on earth. Cameroonian people are the most amazing people. Cameroonians came and disputed it. The Bible says, let the weak say, I am strong. That is, even when you don't see it, you can speak it. Even when you don't see it, you can believe it. That something good can come out of you. Something good can come out of your nation. Something good can come out of your president. Something good. Guys, the strategy is simple. Value the individual and value your nation. I repeat, value the individual and value your nation. Not value your tribe, despise the individual, despise your nation, and then you want to seek and achieve what the Europeans and the rest of the great nations we see around the world has achieved. You will point China. China has a common language. Their cultures are unique. They are not as divided as us. Call another nation. You want to call them. Call it. Call those nations. Let's go ahead and have a conversation. As a matter of fact, we'll start a podcast. And I would love every African to come on that podcast and tell me why you think pan-Africanism is a good idea. An ideology that says Africa should be one. We should have one resource. We should have a one source of power energy. Like everything should be coming out of this particular nation and going around Africa. I think a free trade area is a good initiative. But I also think that you develop yourself to get to that level that if I'm trading with you, you have something to offer. I should not be trading with you because you're an African. I should be trading with you because you have something of value that you can share with me. And as I buy from you, my people will be better. Not because we have shared colonized experience. Not because we have shared slavery experience. Not because we have shared pain. People who have shared pain need therapy. They don't need to come together. When you come together, two people who are lame, you come together. The Bible says when the blind leads the blind, they fall in a pit. They fall in a pit. Try to interact with other nations other than your neighboring countries that have similar problems like you and cannot help you. And again, I want to repeat. The West is not your enemy. The Americans are not your enemy. The British are not your enemy. The French are not your enemy. You say French? Oh, well, no, the French are not your enemy. We are our own enemy. Among ourselves. I've never seen a Frenchman one day in my tribe, in my village. But I've seen how my fellow brother from another tribe treated me. I've seen how somebody who holds a position of power treated me within my own community, not the president. If I get up every day and see that, I cannot blame the president. I'll blame the people that are seeing that community and what they did to me. And that is where change starts. That is where change starts. Guys, I think I've said a lot on this video. There is more to come. This is just the beginning. And I want you to challenge your beliefs. Why should we prioritize every organization or every project or every meeting that they invite you to? Ask yourself the question, is this enhancing the life? If I throw a meeting right now saying come for personal development and learn how to invest, very few people from Cameroon will show up. If I say we have a traditional gala from this tribe, people will show up. When we start prioritizing the individual in the nation and reduce the energy that we put towards tribe, we will experience growth exponentially very fast. I repeat, that is what the West did. Don't come and quote me on this because you want to say, oh, what are you saying? No, it's not me saying it. I'm saying what I've seen the West do. Go read. There are literatures out there on Google. That is why we have information everywhere so that you are not misled. So you don't say, I said. I'm not saying it. I'm saying the West had to do away with every tradition. They had to do away with every group, and they had to prioritize the nation and the individual to be able to emerge victorious and achieve the level of civilization and growth and development that you see today. They didn't grow today by prioritizing tribes over the individual, tribes over the nation, which is the current problem we are facing in Africa and why we are not progressing. That is what I have identified. Go read the literatures of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, of John Locke. Go read the literatures. Go read the Declaration of Independence of America. Read how France became independent, how France was able to foster national unity and become this great country that you feel that they are oppressing you today. What did you do? The question we should be asking ourselves is not blaming French of what they did to Africa, but asking, how did you manage to do this? That is a good question. How did he do that? How this small country is able to take over this entire continent? How this small Britain, with these few people, what did they do? They had a national sense of unity. Speaking one language, understanding their strengths and weaknesses and their motives and intention, and they went out there and they walked as one, and with that they cannot be stopped. And I just want to let Africans know this pride of tribalism, this pride of culture, this pride that we carry so much about our village. And I want to let you know this pride about our language. Oh, we are from Momo. Oh, we are from Bali. Oh, we are from Mankon. Oh, we are from Batibo. Oh, we are from Bansok. And I want to let you know that the primary foundation of multiple languages came from the initiative of the Tower of Babel. And God was confusing the people because they wanted to dominate him. And I just want to let you know that that is not good. It was not something to celebrate that we have multiple languages because it brings confusion. God had to bring confusion. When the people were one, they were building. When they were one and speaking one language, they were building. But immediately they had multiple languages among them, and they could not understand each other, it brought division, and the project that would have been amassed and erected, the building that was supposed to be built, got crumbled, stopped. There was no development. There was no progress. The nation was not moving forward. The entire project came to a standstill because the people could not speak and understand each other. Because when one person said, "Give me a brick," the person said, "Give me water," and they were mad at each other. Why? They could not understand each other. So the whole idea of multiple languages, multiple cultures brings about confusion, and so there is no development. And because there's no development, there is no way we can be able to have anything else but poverty. So when you talk about your culture, think twice. You think the Europeans today, they never had a culture? Because I've heard some people say, we have this African culture, it's our pride. The West is jealous of our culture. No, they had cultures. They had to dissolve them for the interest of the nation. They had to dissolve them because the unity and growth and development of that nation was more important than the village, than the tribe. So they had to prioritize the individual, bringing in their skills to develop the nation and not the tribe. I bet you when you put money within your tribe right now, instead of looking for a competent engineer from another tribe, you prefer to look for an incompetent engineer within your tribe and give them that money, and they do a shady job, and your nation remains the same. But there's somebody from another tribe that can take that money that you've given and do as twice as what your engineer that is not competent will do with that same money. There is a white man that knows how to manage resources that you can hire even from abroad that can come in and be able to cut that cost into two. But to bring a white man, no, they are our enemies. They hate us. They don't like us. And so you will not hire them to come and teach you how to cut down that cost and use the most valuable resources at the very minimum cost and bring about development. That is the problem. If anybody tells you anything other than what I just told you, they are selling you a snake oil. They are selling you magic. Yeah. If they tell you anything else than what I just told you, that's why Africa is suffering and the way forward. They are selling you something. And when you buy, you will pay in the next 50 years. So we weakened our economies. Now we were weak and colonized. And as we were weak and colonized, we had no power to even fight again because those empires came down because of slavery and slave trade. We suffered. Now the colonizers stayed among us and took over everything. And so they never trained most of our people in entrepreneurship and business and engineering. So when they left, what did they leave us with? With a planned economic system. And the planned economic system is what they use as a colonial tool, not necessarily what they use in their home country. And now we are using that colonial tool to lead our people. That tool was just to extract raw materials because there was one straight road. The reason for any construction was to lead to the exit so that they can leave with the goods and services. That is where we find ourselves, guys. But don't carry any grief in your heart thinking that the white man hates you. No, they don't. You presented yourself as who you are, that you think you can sell a brother or a sister. As I'm talking right now, some people will come under here and try to spread hate, and it's the same spirit. But you will pay for it. You will pay dearly for it. Your children's children will suffer as you keep believing lies and spreading lies. You're refusing to copy and follow what works and think people hate you, people don't like you, they want to kill you. It will take you backwards. So that is what happened with our economy. And so what do African leaders need? Now, African leaders are trying their best to see what they can do. But that is all they know. To think creatively and get out of the box, we suppress them with labels. They are bad leaders. They are evil. And they cannot even think creatively. Now they are fighting to even protect themselves and their lives. They know that even if they leave power, they can be killed within their own community, because when groups come together, they can stir up any story about you and take you down. You've seen this happen in your tribe. You've seen this happen in your village. And so they're trying to protect themselves instead of trying to develop. We have to help them get out of that defensive mode and get to the offensive mode. Offensive is development. We go out, we do things. Defensive, I protect myself so you don't come and get me. That is where we find ourselves. So, Africans, Cameroonians, value our leaders, value our president, pray for them, walk. Imagine the amount of money that Cameroonians, English-speaking Cameroonians, have been able to donate towards the separation movement. Imagine that we were doing this effortlessly, continuously, for the development of our nation. We would have been further than where we are. That money that you donated towards this cause didn't come from the government. And you think that you didn't have this money all this while. But if you find a great cause to fight and die for, money will be available. There will be a way for you to raise that money to do what you really believe for. And that can only come when you derive the sense of national unity, of national pride, of our nation being number one over my own tribe, my own personal interest. Yes, I have to build my country. Yes, I have to build my life. Yes, I have to build a business. But I'm doing this to better my nation. I'm doing this to make sure that we achieve all that we desire in this nation, for the whole nation, for the entire Cameroon. I heard a journalist saying something, and I'll wrap up this message. He said, if Paul Biya is not able to build roads for his own village, how can he build that road for us? He cannot govern and help his own people. How can he help us? And what that tells me is, this president is not a biased president that the English-speaking people can say he's developing his own side of the country and not developing ours, but he's in that spot where even his people are speaking the way we are speaking about him. And so the ultimate goal for him is to protect himself. And he will do everything militarily, build alliances with other nations to protect himself at the expense of your own development and your own progress and the lives of your children. We'll be stagnant because of what you say. And I just want to say this to our people. Any wisdom that you have so strong that holds you down and hold your people down and keep you in poverty, that wisdom should be eradicated. Every belief and cultural belief that you hold so strong, you like it. When you are in there, it's like you are in heaven. But if you will turn around and it doesn't provide food for you and your children and give them the opportunity to go out there and have the best that they want in this life, that knowledge should be eradicated. That style should be eradicated. That culture should be eradicated. That belief system should be eradicated, because we want our children to have good schools, be able to play sports and choose whatever they want in life. And we cannot give them that if we will prioritize this over others. And I want to say this to all the youths, young people. You guys are the future. You're the next big thing. And I just want to say, if your parents will incite you, or you've developed the passion to go for traditional groups other than meetings and organizations that can help foster your own development, this is time to start saying no. I will not show up for that meeting, because I know at the end of the day, it doesn't foster national unity. It doesn't enhance my life as an individual. Parents will look at you low. They will look at you as nothing. They will not value you as an individual. They will cut off every opportunity, limit your talent, look at you as inferior over the tribe, over the family, over your own aspirations and dreams in life. If they will do that, cut away from every traditional meeting. I say it, cut away from every traditional meeting and don't go there. If you hear about an organization, a meeting that will enhance your life and help you move forward to help the nation, go for that. And break away from every tradition that is going to limit you, see you as inferior, don't acknowledge your own gifts and talents that God gave you, break away from every tradition. I remember a moment when we had, because you asked me, why are you this radical about this? Because I remember a moment when we just gave birth to our first daughter. When we gave birth to our first daughter, my wife, it was an amazing time for us. It was a blessing. A pastor who also had traditional beliefs invited us for a meeting, a traditional meeting. We came for that meeting, sitting down there and just having this conversation. And all of a sudden, I realized that they were taking salt and putting in the mouth of children. And this pastor grabbed my child. Before I wanted to say no, they had put some concoctions into the mouth of my child without my permission. And so they undermined my personal decision and prioritized the group and put salt in the or concoction in the mouth of my child. Today, that child is autistic. There are many other factors that can be contributing to this very situation. We don't know. But you should not do anything to my child against my own will because of tradition. You should not do anything to my child against my own personal will because of your cultural beliefs. If they invite you for a cultural event and it's not aimed at fostering national unity, boycott from those events. This is time for you young people to carve a new path and create the kind of Cameroon you want to see. It will not come by taking advice from your parents. If they knew so much, that nation would have been different. The fact we are where we are is because what they have been doing is not working. What they have been doing is not working. And in conclusion, I want to say, be the kind of person that honors your word. Honors your word. We have this tendency of really living in the West, seeing what they are doing, but we don't practice it. Because the next step will be the difficulty in implementing what we have seen from those who are succeeding. Yesterday we had an event and people had to come at 8 and people came at 12 midnight. We must do what works and say, I will discipline myself, make sure I prepare on time and show up at that time, because we have wasted a lot of time that we would have used to do other amazing things in our lives because we show up late. And so if we decide and say, I will be there at 8, be there at 8, and be that example. Be that example. This will go a long way for us to accelerate our transformation. By being honest people and being on time. The white person, what they do, like I'm saying, you see what they do, you implement it. If they say 2 p.m., it's 2 p.m., they'll be there. If they say 5 p.m., it's 5 p.m. on dot, they will be there. And with that, we can spend 1 hour, do what we need to do, and the rest of the time we can go for other meetings, and at the end of the day, you can achieve more. But if we waste all our time doing other stuffs, just whining time, just to come late, at the end of the day, we'll achieve less. And we wonder why we are not developing. There's no start time, there's no end time. This event starts at 8 and it ends at 10. So it's going to be a 2-hour program. You come after 8, the program has started already. If you come after 10, the program is over. You go home. Even if you have 2 people, do that. And as we continuously do that, people will start catching up. But if we think, oh, I have this food, I have all these drinks, I've hired a DJ, and because if this person doesn't show up, then we will not have this fundraising. Shut it down. After the 2 hours time frame, close the event and go home. Our people will start changing. You cannot change them. You cannot initiate that change by trying to compromise, because why? You think you've spent all this money for this event, and so if people don't show up, you will not get the support. No, shut down the event, take the food home. Let them come and show up and call you and say, hey, the event is over. Start doing that immediately. I mean, like right now, if you have an event this week, go ahead and say the event time starts at 6 and ends at 8. Or it starts at 6 and end at 9. At 6, there should be someone on the microphone to start speaking. At 9, if that is the agreed time, you shut down the event. Close the hall, seal the door. Event is over. Everybody go home. Change starts in our community. Everywhere, both in the diaspora and back home. If somebody has an event and tells you they're inviting you to show up at 6 p.m. and if 6 p.m. you're not there, no, you're coming late. If you're the guest of honor, if you're the guest speaker, you come late, you don't allow that individual to speak at that event. They don't respect you. They don't respect your time. They don't respect your vision. They don't respect your program. They don't respect you as a human being. Anybody that shows up late doesn't respect you. And because of that, cut off from that. Shut down the event. It's over. You will lose some couple of thousands of dollars, but it will go a long way to bring about change, and our economy and our country and our community will be better. This is time for us, because somebody might be listening to me speak, and I just want to let you know, you might hear me and you think, oh, I'm a CPDM or whatever label you want to give me, or you want to think like, oh, I support the president, I support it. No, I'm supporting every African leader. I'm supporting everybody, and I believe I'm the synergist. I'm the synergist. God has raised me in a time such as this to speak truth to us, so that because nobody will tell us this. If a white man says this, you say they are racist. If somebody from the French says this, you say they are supporting the La Republique. But now this is somebody that say, you say I'm CPDM. I don't care whatever label you give me. I'm not the average pastor that people will just step out there and push on the side. No, if you come at me, really come well, because I'm ready. I'm ready, and I will take you out. If you want to go physical, we can try that as well. But I just want to let you know it is time for change, and we are not going to be the generation of people that came here, saw it, and just went around with the status quo. We went in there, we initiated change, we tried our best to make sure that what we came and saw, we left something different than what we saw. We left a different system. We changed the lives of people. That is why you see the Americans, they respect Martin Luther King. That is why they respect George Washington. That is why they respect Abraham Lincoln. That is why they respect Steve Jobs. That is why they respect all these great people, because they were who they said they were. They did it. They acted in accordance with their beliefs and their values and what they stood for. And I just want to let you know, we are the young generation of people that will say we will initiate change. And I want to say, on this note, all the people back home that think you have to be 50 if you're in the diaspora to be a leader, I came to challenge you. Alexander the Great was 33 and he was done with his mission. He was a king at the age of 17. He changed the whole world, conquered the whole world by 33. And somehow they have told you got to get to 50 or 60 to lead. And at that time, you're all weak and have no power to do the things you ought to do at this age. And I empower you right now to rise up and be the kind of leader that you have been created to be. And you cannot be that leader while you are old. You are supposed to be that leader in your prime and as your youth. You as a youth and as a human being that is within his teens and in his 20s, you have the power to go out there and bring that change. You're supposed to be leading now. This is our time right now. If you are 50, your time is gone, man. You should be doing something else with your life. Don't try to use us to be the tool so that you can lead in your 50s. This is the time for us as young people to rise up, read, study, see what works, and put it to practice. And we want to be the kind of leaders that will be in the trenches with our people. We don't want to be a leaders that will sit on the third floor and send letters down. We want to be in the trenches with our people. Alexander the Great was in there in the trenches with his people. Leaders that want to sit on the skyscrapers and send information for young people to go die. No, I want to see you in the trenches with us. I want to see you breaking bread with us. I want to see you getting married and see us getting married and you being in our midst. Young people, it is your time to shine. If you miss this, you'll be in your 50s and it's all over. You've lost it. This is your time to rise up. Your parents say some things that you've read and seen and looked at the great nations and their ways, and you say, Pa, Mama, no. No to this your style. No to this your belief. It is not going to help us. It's going to lead us to pain. No, it's our culture. It's our tradition. This is what our great-grandparents, that is what your great-grandparents believed in, and it didn't help us. I grew up in abject poverty, and so I just want to let you know, Mom, it's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for me. It worked for you. That is why you are looking at me as an asset. So I can go make money so that you can be better. The reason is why, because you know that I can get out there and do something you cannot do. So you sit down and listen. Rise up, youths. Rise up and lead your nation in entrepreneurship, in engineering, in arts and sciences. Do it. Partner with great people across the world. Your parents' enemies are not your enemies. Be friends with people who mean well for you. Develop skills. Network. Build yourself. Get into the gym. Work out. Be strong mentally and physically. Get married early. To hell with this idea that you should get married in your 35s or in your 40s. Get married early. The reason why they put all those barriers is because people are broke. They cannot help you make money. They cannot help support you when you're starting. They don't have money, so they will say get married when you're 40. Jesus Christ, his father, Joseph, and Mary, they got married. They were engaged at the age of 14. Mary was within the age of 12 to 15. Joseph was within the age of 14 to 16. And they engaged and got married. Do you know why they tell you not to get married? The reason why they tell you not to get married is because of poverty. Because there's no money. And so you get old before you get married. And in that process, all the girls within your age, guess who they are getting married to? Old folks. And so you cannot even enjoy a girl within your age group. And the reason why you cannot enjoy a girl within your age group is because they've told you that you got to go make money. And the reason why you got to go make money is because they didn't make money. And so there's nothing to support you so you can get married early, have a business skill that can help you support your family. And that is the reason. There's no other reason. Because if at the age of 12, if God knew that we had to get married at the age of 40, then he would have prepared us and prepared the woman to be fertile at the age of 40 or 30. The reason why God made a woman to be fertile at the age of 12 to 13 is because that is the age where you have to start thinking of getting married. Because when you get married at that age, you're able to build a life with this man. You're able to know each other. There is no sugar mommy story. There is no these mixed feelings and emotions that our society is experiencing. All of this is happening because of poverty. And we can fight that by parents working hard for their children and even support them when they start early. The Bible says a rich man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. This kind of message is not preached in Africa at all. They don't want to even hear this, that you ought to leave wealth for your children's children. Your children are not the ones to take care of you. Yes, there are some certain instances where they can provide support for you if you're struggling, but you ought to provide wealth for your children's children. They don't preach this to you, right? You've never heard this message. They don't emphasize it. They leave bondage to you. They leave poverty to you. They leave pain to you. They leave their enemies to you. They leave the past to you. They leave a painful, tragic history to you that ruins your emotions and make you look at the world with the gloomy veil. A rich man, a good man, a wealthy man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And that is the path that we as young Africans are rising up to emulate. Wage war against the past. Wage war against the past. I repeat, wage war against the past. If you want to see your destiny, you have to attack your history. What is holding you back in life? Your past. When you succeed, what do people try to attack you with? Your past. When you make money, who hold you back? People in the past that want to remind you of who you are. Parents that want to heap huge responsibility upon you, thinking you have to take care of the whole family. You have to wage war against the past. I just want to say this. Africans are one of the most amazing, charitable people on earth. Africans in the diaspora, you guys are amazing people, and yet they are trying to make you feel bad. Cameroonians in the diaspora, you guys are amazing people, and yet some people with some vague ideologies are trying to make you feel bad about yourself. There's not a single African that I know in the diaspora that has not helped someone back home from their family, that has not built a house back home for their family, that has not done amazing things for their family. Let me tell you something. Most of the people from Europe that left Europe and came to the West, most of the people that left Europe and came to America cut every ties with their parents and their families back in Europe. I just want to say, guys, I I don't know if you guys are ready for this, but let me say it again. Most of the people from Europe that left Europe to America cut ties with their parents and their families in Europe so that they can build a new path here in America. But every African that I know of that traveled abroad makes money and tries to help the people back home. And all of you've done that. You've done that in huge proportion. You've helped cousins. You've not only helped your immediate siblings, you've helped numerous people in your family. And yet they're trying to make you feel bad for not contributing enough. And I just want to let you know, you guys are amazing. You guys are powerful. You guys are smart. You have love for your nation, which is amazing. But this is the caveat. Are you ready for this? And I'll wrap up this message. Guys, the reason why the Americas or the Americans opened their doors for us, Africa, remember when you went for interview for your visa? One of the questions they asked you was, what will make you come back to your land? What will make you come back to your country? And you had to explain that you're going to study to acquire this knowledge so you can come back and teach your people. And that is why they said, good job, we'll give you this visa. Now they tell you that the white man is wicked. How can they want you to come into their land and learn from them and go back and help your people, and yet you think that they are wicked because of something that their great-great-grandparents did and not them? You come in, there is no way for you to learn, study, and acquire skills and talent that you can go back and help your people. Why? Because pressure from back home. They want you to start giving money immediately. They should start sending money back home immediately you arrive the States. Immediately you arrive Europe. Immediately you arrive Asia. They want you to start sending money immediately back home. And because of that, you will cut off every opportunity that can help you gain this talent and the skills that can go back and just blow up an entire economy. But you will leave that for a menial job so you can make money and send back home. And guess what happens? Africa remains poor. Cameroon remains poor. Most of our people abroad are nurses. They don't know how to run hospitals, but they work in a hospital. And so with that, it limits their ability to be able to develop the skills in engineering and other industries that are transforming the global economy to come back home and bring about transformation. So what are you doing? You're eating your goose. When you pressure your relatives abroad that they are trying their best to make sure that they learn some skill, you pressure them, they leave that job, they leave that business, they leave that talent, and they go out there and try to get a menial job so that they can send money for you back home. So what are you doing? You're destroying your own self internally. This is the thing, guys. I've seen the Chinese people and I've seen African people coming into America. The first thing the Chinese man does when they come to America is go out there and look for a way to start a business. The first thing that an African does when they come into America is look for a job. And we wonder why our economies remain the same and our conditions remain the same. Just the tax on the money that we do at our job is almost half of the money that we make at that job. And we wonder why our economy is going down and why the people in the diaspora cannot help the people back home. This is the reality, guys. We have to be able to support our own economy and support our own people abroad. Just the fact that somebody from your family traveled abroad is a blessing. Support them. I just want to let you know, just the fact that they are in America, it should be a blessing for you and that family to let everybody know and praise them, help them, encourage them. Just let them know, brother, sister, the fact that you went to America is a blessing for our own family. Just the fact that I can think subconsciously that I have somebody in America is going to mean the world for me. Sister, keep going. We believe in you. We're praying for you. Sister, brother, we know that you're going to come back and do amazing things in this nation. That is enough to help them and keep them going so that they are not pressured to go get menial jobs because they say, oh, is that all you can give? Is that all the money that you can give? How many years you've been in America? What have you been able to do? And you throw all of these slangs to them. You don't know what they are doing with their lives. You don't know what they plan for their lives because it's the community over the individual. We don't prioritize the nation as the community. It is socialism, the even distribution of economic resources within a group. What a pathetic concept. What a pathetic ideology that cannot help us be able to grow. So the Asian comes in, they get a business. The African comes in, they get a job. I want to say money circulates within the Asian community about 31 times. About 31 days. That is a whole month. A dollar will circulate within the Asian community for 31 days before it goes out to the public. It will circulate in the Jewish community about 24 days before it goes out to the general public. But the money will circulate in the black community for 6 hours and is going back into the community. What does this mean? We don't prioritize money as a tool to create wealth. We prioritize money as something to pay bills or to save in the bank and build a good credit. By the time we start prioritizing money as an instrument, because the Asian community, the Jewish community, they see money as a tool to create wealth, to produce more money. We see money as a tool to get good credit, save in the bank, and buy stuff. Our perspective about money is different. And I think if Africans and black people prioritize these industries and look at what the world is doing and focus our energy and attention, and we are not pressured by family, relatives, and community, we will be able to have the right perspective about money. But how can I tell a brother to go learn engineering if he's receiving text messages and calls every day from back home? We need money. I want to remind us, before your brother or sister traveled abroad, you were living, you didn't die. We can still manage and see what they can come up with and do for the whole nation. And that will benefit you as well. I just thought I'd pour my heart out so you can understand how I feel for our people and the hope that I have for our people, so that we will have the right attitude, and knowing that the white person is not our enemy, but they want to help you. They will teach you if you show up with an open heart and with a clear mind, free of judgment and the past, filled with slavery, slave trade, and this idea that the white man doesn't like you and hate you. If you can clear yourself from all of these memories and thoughts, you'll be able to integrate freely, look at people in the eyes and say, I want to do well for myself and my people, and they will show you the way, and you'll go back and develop your own continent, and you guys will have a different kind of game to play as fellow countries to move the world forward. I hope this message was a blessing to you. I love you guys so much. And stay blessed, and I'll see you next time.